Hey guys, welcome to the Richest Real Estate Agent Podcast, where there's way better metrics in life to measuring rich than just GCI. We're going to talk to the top influencers in real estate and top influencers in the mindset space. We're going to break down the emotional intelligence needed to be successful as an agent and stay there for 20 years. Welcome to the show. Let's get at it. Welcome to the show, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. Really appreciate it. We don't take any listener for granted. We have, honestly, a guest here. It means a lot to me. We've had some incredible journeys together. We'll probably break into that. Very successful, one of the top agents in Edmonton. He's owned brokerages. He's with Royal LePage now. He sold his brokerage, EXIT Realty to Royal LePage. He's got, I don't know, 100 and some sales a year at least to He's got a full administration systems. He's got a lot to offer on this show to talk about real estate. But there's also stuff that we're gonna go into that you might not expect a top quote agent to talk about. Potentially, we're gonna talk about his marriage. We're gonna talk about some of the mindset stuff that he's had to work through to actually find out what success is. And I can't wait to get into this. Carson, thank you so much for coming on the show. Truly appreciate it. Welcome.
No problem. Glad to be here. Thanks for asking.
You're one of the first guys I thought of when we rebranded to the Richest Real Estate Agent, because when you came to me and we were talking about coaching, and I think we need to tell the story about how your wife actually told you to call me, not you. And you were you were looking for another assistant. And I remember the moment. I'm like, so you're already super successful. You're just so busy that you need to get more help. This is a good typical thought. And it was like, I need to hire a third assistant. And I hear you're someone that can help me with that or whatever. And I said, okay, yeah. And then we connect. And at the end of the moment was, okay, so let's get you the third assistant. You're going to create more capacity. And then it was the stumping question. What are you going to do with the more time? Are you just going to fill it with more sales? And it was like that was kind of like our start of our journey. So why don't you give your perspective of how we met, and then let's talk about who you are, what your business looks like.
Well, to be honest, I've been watching you for years, just because I know we have very similar attributes. We have very similar way we run our team. When you were in Sherwood Park and you were running your team, I was growing my team and running a brokerage at the time. And I just remember you had some ads out looking for help for your team. And I remembered that ad and I was like, that's a cool way to ask. You're looking for personality and people that connect with people. And it wasn't just skills for the job. You were looking for, character traits. And I thought that was cool because you don't see very many people looking for help by their character, which is refreshing. So that's one of the reasons I reached out to you. My wife, we were struggling at the time, and she watched your video with your wife just around Valentine's Day, and it was about, you guys were communicating but not hearing each other, or you weren't hearing her, and she was telling you, and that, typical personalities like you and I were like, I am hearing you, I'm hearing your words, but you're not hearing the message, and that's where I just. You just hit yourself on the head because you're working so hard. You're providing for your family. Why is there struggles at home? I don't get it. We don't have money problems. We're growing the business. I'm making time for family, but I'm not connected. So
on paper, Carson was doing a good job as a husband and as a father. Like, it's just like on paper, it's like I'm doing the right things. What's wrong? And then naturally, Carson, I think we're all in that boat. I guarantee, because we're not really taught another way. You just think, what is a picture of a good husband? What's a good picture of a good businessman? And we just try to be that picture. And I think that's just kind of where it ends. But you and I both know that it goes a little bit deeper and is a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's when I met you and you told me, like, you're just going to fill with more sales. You're not going to, hiring another person is not the answer you need. And then you asked for me to come to the reboot, and I was like, no, I don't have time. I don't have time for the reboot. You're like, no, I know this is what you need. And unfortunately, you need this. So, you were willing to meet with me in person, which you normally said you don't do. So that showed me I was different. And, that honestly, meeting in person was you know, the start to the great relationship that we have right now. So I'm glad you did that. I know you were in the middle of
I
moving.
remember, I remember sitting there, and as the time clicked on, like, it wasn't that you put pressure on us, but I could see, yep, another thing to deal with when I get in my car. Like, it was almost like I saw, like, you're a one incredibly busy guy when I met you there. And it is funny when I have an agent come through our real estate reboot camp, and I think of you when they're like, I just don't have the time. And I think about you and I'm like, you know what? Not having the time is, and taking this extensive course that we have. I think Carson, you should talk to Carson, because somehow he did it. And not only did it completely shifted a lot of the thinking and the way you do things. So I think about the guys that think they're too busy. And I'm like, you just haven't seen the higher levels of what busy really is. And there's a lot more time than you think. A
Mhm.
lot of times we're stuck being busy because it feels like we're working or something. I don't know.
Well, it was
So yeah,
about 4 years ago. I completely, because one of the struggles I always had as a hustler is just always being on and always people pleasing and always trying to help everyone all the time. And I was burning out, and I was like, I gotta, when I met you too, I was completely burned out. But
yeah,
you just have to get to the point where you can't help everybody, and you pick and choose on who you can help, the people that are your tribe, the people you connect with. Um, so I mean, that's big for me, is to um, book myself in my schedule for my own personal time, for fitness, for family. I just book it in my calendar, and that was one of the struggles I had. Is I was like, oh, I got to work, I got to pay the bills, until I actually treated my own personal time, my family, as an actual booking and an appointment, and it was a non-negotiable. Sorry, I'm booked up. I can't help you that day.
which you would say the exact same thing if it's a CMA.
Yeah,
That's the one thing that I had to learn years ago. It's like I would watch my behavior. I'd be like, you know what, you want to price the house? I'm already pricing one at 2, but I can get you at 3. But if it's like,
yeah,
oh, I had a lunch date with my wife, big deal. We can bump that. You bet I'd CMA. And so we had these different levels, and then Renee would
yeah,
support me. Like it would,
yeah,
but after a while, it's a slow burn. It's like booze, you
yeah.
know. It's a tricky and slippery slope, is to not value the time with your loved ones and yourself as much as a CMA. But we always carve out time for CMAs, and we always block time. I'm showing houses. Why would we not just say, sorry, I'm going for a lunch date with my daughter?
Well, and
Hey,
and I just learned, if you say that if you say you're going for your a lunch date with your daughter or your son, it's like they feel that, well, that's what I'm paying you for. That's honestly, that's the feeling I get. So I just say I'm with the
I mean it.
client, or I'm in an
Yeah,
appointment. And I
we
remember
don't
I
need
had
to
my
know.
son beside me in the car, and we're driving to go do something, and I'm on the phone with the client, and I just said, unfortunately, I'm in an appointment right now. I'll give you a call back in a couple hours. And my son, after I hung up, he was like, "You're going to an appointment?" I'm like, "No, you're my appointment."
Cool.
And he was like, "Oh, cool." Like, I canceled
Wow.
that appointment to stay on true to my son's appointment. So
And which is really interesting, because you could say to your son, I love you, son, 50 times. But when he
yeah,
goes, oh, wow, he just canceled an appointment, which is, he knows it's really important, and I'm the meeting. Like, it's almost like we want to say we love our family, we love our kids, but why don't we show them? It's two
yeah.
completely different things. We know that, that's kind of the stuff we've talked about. So paint a picture right now about your business. Let's get into give the audience a view of your current business, and then go back to how you got to that place. Like, what are we looking at? Like, how many sales? Where are you
Um,
located? How many team members? Give us a picture of what you're actively, built.
so I'm currently, my business area is in Spruce Grove, Stony Plain, which is west of Edmonton, Alberta. And that I've been working in this area, and I've been in the business since 2007 in real estate. Before that, I owned a gas station, and so I transitioned from being a business owner there, and when I got into real estate, I treated it like a business. So very much similar to you. 3 months in the business, I hired help, because I knew I'm only good at what I'm good at, and I'm going to delegate what I'm not good at. So that's the number one thing any agent has to do, is know your strengths and also know your weakness, and hire someone that's stronger at what you're not good at. And then so in this area, I have a back end admin, which is an inside sales agent. So it's a realtor that stays behind the scenes more so. I've always ran my business like that, where I have an inside sales agent, and they're the ones that, you know, send all the paperwork to lawyers, legals, mortgage specialists. They also make sure the database is correct and all the searches are set up. So the behind the scenes at the office stuff. I'm more of the field agent. I work out in the field. I'm showing the houses. I'm listing the houses. I'm the outside guy. I do have a buyer's agent right now that works with buyers that call off the signs. I'm a firm believer in trying not to compete against myself with my sellers, kind of like BC has. You can't represent both sides. I really believe in that myself, because I'm a tough negotiator. I don't want to go against myself. So I want to be able to give all the benefits to my client that they're paying for. And I can't do that if I'm on both sides. So I know there's a lot of controversy around that, but I just feel you're doing a disservice for one client or both clients when you're a facilitator. They're not kidding.
It's a tough one, because you literally have to withhold information to be a good negotiator. So you've got a buyer's agent, you've got a back end admin, you've got yourself. So is it a three-way, or is there more?
So those are the three realtors, and I have a marketing director, and that person does my social media. That person does, you know, our resumes and highlight sheets, and just produces all the marketing material that is sent out. We do a lot of digital marketing now. We used to be heavy into paper marketing, and that kind of died for sure with COVID. I do believe the first showing is on the internet, the second showing is in person. So, you know, you want to get that showcase out there. So
yeah, that's critical. Like it's almost like, we don't even need to dig into that. Welcome to the new world. Like, if you don't have an online presence of some sort. But the truth is, though, on social media, I think it's needed, but I think that there's a lot of pressure around it. As you know, you've seen even inside our working on the reboot, our round that we went through, like the people around social media, the pressure is so freaking high. And it's that they think they got to do everything. They listen to social media experts, and they think they got to be producing content at every single level. But you know what? We're a service people. Like, like you said, social is just to get you to the human interaction. And most agents are thinking it is the number one machine. But the thing is, it still has to be human to human interaction. You know, like, so it's not the end all. What's your view on social media? That was mine.
The social media, it's a way to get attention. It's a way to show people you're doing your job, doing your business. I like to post, you know, when I list a house. I like to post when I sell a house. I like to show that I'm a mover and a shaker. I like to have sales. Like, you can be a listing agent, just list lots of houses, but if you don't tell people you're selling them, you're just a lister. So you want to show that you can do the job, saying get jobs done. So
I find those are the most powerful real estate posts. It's great. And there's lots of different ways to do it. We've got lots of guys that are doing daily updates, and other guys doing monthly updates. And I don't think there's a one singular path to it, but I think you're right. You know, like, you got to show that you're doing the job. I think people need to see that. It does work, because even if it doesn't have massive reach, it still has your close circle of people that watch you. So
yeah.
So let's go into a little bit of so it's cool that you showcase your business. How many sales are you at this year? Just curious.
So this year was my busiest year I ever had since 2007. So I usually double to get in the top 5% of the Edmonton Real Estate Board. Last year, you had to sell 60 homes. And I sold 127 myself. Collectively, my whole team, we sold 144. So we did do a lot of production. But mainly I'm the one that's out there in the field a lot. So I did a lot of massive changes after I met you, and you know, I rebuilt my whole team. You know, tore it down, rebuilt it up again. I'm not afraid of change. Change is the only thing that's constant in this world. So you just have to roll with it as it comes. So
that I remember you going through that. So let's talk about this, because I love that you're having the biggest year of your entire career, right? Like, it's huge, which is really awesome, because because you went into such an introspective work. And I feel like I really want to, I'm like on a mission to tell people that you can actually be more successful and happy and fulfilled. There's no reason why. It's not like if you're going to look within, and there's scary things we don't want to look at, and how are we holding ourselves back? There's a reality out there then, and this is, I see it all the time in my world, like all the time, is after a while, what happens is once you shift your thinking, like you changed your team, you stopped doing condos, you started taking days off, you actually started holidaying, and all these different things. Your relationship with your kids became a priority, your wife and you, like so much. And it's like, oh yeah, and I had one of the biggest years I've ever had. Like it's a story I'm hearing a lot, because I think that we are realizing that I'm trying to tell people the work of the inner game, which is the human side of it, is I feel like it's just not happening in traditional real estate coaching. And I know you've had a bit of experience with Exit. So why don't you speak to that journey? Like I love that we're like, man, you're hitting it big, but like, what have you done in the last year? Because I think people need to hear it. So you're speaking to someone like you, listening to this podcast, and you're trying to show them a different way. How would you explain your journey and explain all of
Um,
that?
you know what? The biggest part of my journey is like when I own Exit Realty, that franchise taught me a lot in terms of personality profiling. They use the DISC program, DISC. You use the Myers-Briggs program. It's very similar in terms of you get to know there's 4 different personality styles, and you have to be able to communicate to people so they can understand. You're speaking to their language. You'd learn some skills. That franchise had that from the top level down. So conventions we went to, everyone knew everyone's personality. So you're able to have a connection right away. When I brought that into my real estate business and my brokerage, I taught all the agents that, and it was really a key thing that I think is missing in real estate right now. Is people are just hustling for the listing, they're hustling for the business, but they're missing that human connection. And once you can relate to the public, you can talk to them better. That was the biggest shift that I did this year. Is when you're like, don't work with everyone. If they're not clicking with you and you're not talking on their level and you're just not jiving, like you're stressing yourself out by working with someone that doesn't.
Losing energy every day. You were burning it. You were
Yeah.
burnt out for a reason, right?
Yeah. Well, they're not seeing your value, and you're trying to sell your value to someone that doesn't see it. So it's like, hey. So I started, not working with people and choosing to. Hey, I can't help you. You're not listening to me. You're listening to your coworkers, and they're telling you don't write full list. Like, okay, you should live with them because I can't help you. But
Yeah.
when someone's not listening to their professional that they're hiring, you just have to beat your head on the wall. So it's like, okay, I'm not working with those people anymore. So that was the biggest shift that I did. Is I just can't help everyone. And I'm a people pleaser, and I'm trying to help people that don't want to be helped. And
And
I
a
just,
hustler, like, and an A-type personality, a hustler, a people pleaser. Like, and the crazy thing is, you can serve everybody. That's the insanity. It's like with your amount of energy and effort and drive, you have proven that hustle alone, even if you're feeling like a bag of crap, I can still get the deal done because you have that. So these are the A-type driven dudes like myself. Same thing. It's actually harder to not serve that guy that's draining you than to like, or sorry, it's easy. It's harder to just say, no, go ahead. Like, so I think the burnout, when I had a mentor that used to say, when the pain is enough, we change.
yeah,
And it feels like guys like you and I that have that intensity, that drive, that like, if you got one leg, I'm still crushing it. Like, I don't even need legs. Throw me in a wheelchair. Like, I need a voice. No problem. I'll write. Like, it's almost like,
yeah.
and so what happens is that drive serves you in so many levels. And then the pain shows up. And that's when you're like, okay, it's time. It's like a diabetes diagnosis. Like you get diagnosed with diabetes, and guess what? Time to lose 40 pounds. It's almost like the burnout was that for you. It's like, and your relationship with your wife and different things outside of work was starting to feel the pain, and that's where it's like, yeah, anyways, yeah.
Well, yeah, like and for me, the definite burnout for me is I was getting very short with people. I was on edge a lot. People would ask me questions, and I wouldn't answer it normally in the compassionate way that I have, so they could hear me. I would just say what as a jerk. I would just spit out the answer and say, "There, now you know the stuff," and move on. But so a lot of compassion was gone when you're burnt out, right? And you do end up losing some business anyway. So I just I just chose to work with people that want to work with me. So um, now I'm choosing to work with past clients only and people that know me. Like I since 2007, I've negotiated over 1,200 deals. So since then, I have a lot of business that I can work in, and that's one of the things I learned from your reboot is quit hustling getting new business and just focus on your current business and keeping them happy and remembering that you're a top agent in their area. So that's where my
It
my
seems so
shift has
easy,
been.
eh? It's
Yeah,
easy. It's not hard. Like imagine meeting a stranger or meeting a friend. And it's like, and we forget about our friends to chase strangers. At what point do we just do that? And I don't think that's even encouraged or talked about. So I love the fact that you brought that up because it's one of my things I've seen with all these different agents. They just doesn't matter what level. Like I got guys that are 60 some years old and they're coaching with in my world. And I'm like, so how many transactions have you had? They go well over 1,000. I'm like, okay, why are you doing lead gen calls? Like it just my brain
yeah,
doesn't understand. After a few hundred transactions, you really have like if you even have 300-400 transactions at 10%, it's 30 to 40 deals a year. Like that's a
yeah,
living. Fantastic. And if like some of the guys I'm coaching, I got New York, I've got Toronto, Vancouver, like we're talking like they only need like 4 sales to make it. Like it's the prices are so high, but yeah, it's a amazing point, right? I love
well,
that you brought it up.
I got three CMAs this afternoon. One at 3 and one at 7 o'clock, and all three of them are past clients, and they just want me to
So
come
easy.
over
You're
and
going to
talk with
hang out.
them. How's the market? Yeah, exactly. But they all know
It's
me,
so
so
beautiful.
I'm
Yeah.
not going in to sell my sales. I'm not. It's a
Love it.
completely different feeling. So
It's
um,
like you bought in completely to build a life you love.
yeah,
As the like it, and that's something that it's cool to put on the table. You're such a great example of going, where's my energy leaking?
yeah,
I don't feel good. They don't see my value. But what happens is that you're like, I'm gonna go do these 3 CMAs. And it doesn't feel like you're grinding. Like you're just
no,
gonna go through 3 of your friends. And so you've architected your life around what you love rather than just rushing growth. Like but what's psycho and crazy, it's like you grew more this year than ever. And that's the this weird smoke and mirrors feel. It's like, I'm gonna shrink if I don't crush 400 calls. I'm like, you got 1,000 clients, my friend. Like you just go call them and you're probably gonna be fine. So huge shift. It's such a great example, Carson.
yeah, no, it's definitely very exciting and fun to be in this business. I love this business because I get to be myself, and you know, um, I got past experience in how houses are built, and so people see the value. And last night I went and I showed a for sale by owner, and I was representing the buyer, and the for sale by owner was there, and I was pointing out all this stuff. He goes, "I don't think I want you in my house anymore." Like he's like, you're showing them all the bad stuff. I'm like, well, that's why they hired me. Like, some, I don't know if there's some realtors that they hide things so the inspector can find it, but
Close the sale, yeah.
I'll point out
That's when
stuff
the
ahead
sale
of
is more
time.
important than the clients, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm looking out for the client's best interest before the inspection. So,
So let's talk about the industry a little bit. I think you've got the right to talk after being an old fart like you, sitting in the industry like this. And you know, I just think you've seen it for a while, and I'd like you to speak to, if you were to have a magic wand, what are some of the changes you'd like to see in the real estate industry?
I think the real estate industry, there's a couple changes, but the one I really feel is important is I know in 2014 the RECA, the Real Estate Council of Alberta, put out that all clients, buyers and sellers, have to sign a service agreement. They have to sign contracts to work. We and realtors, we do it on the listing. We don't start listing a house, we don't start marketing it, working for them until they sign. But on the buying side, there's always some stragglers. The realtors are like, we'll sign that later. We'll do that at the end. But it creates this confusion for the public where not all realtors are cut from the same cloth. And it's unfortunate if all realtors
Yep.
treated it like a business, just like a listing, and they met with the clients, the buyers, sat down, went over the buyer's paperwork, had them commit to working with one realtor, we'd get a lot less people calling that, confusing. We just had someone, they called on my listing. My buyer's agent talked to them, worked with them, and they booked an appointment to see it with her, but they were going to bring their realtor. So they phoned their realtor and said, I booked an appointment with the lister. Can you come with us? Because you're our agent. And that seller has their own agent.
They don't even know.
They just don't even know. So,
Yeah.
And unfortunately, my person asked, do you have a realtor? And they said, well, no, because they haven't talked to them yet. But they had someone in mind.
And that's a lot of times the agent like I see it from a mindset in a place, because and a personal value is, if you're like, hey, I'll serve you. But the thing is though, if you don't know your value, you will be run around. Like you won't be like, no, you don't have to sign nothing. We'll work together. I think there's a place of value that says, hey, look, this is what I do. And I think that's the human to human thing that's not being trained. It's just like there's an internal value missing going, if you really think you're worth it, don't you want them to commit to you?
Yeah, like I really think that's got to be a big change. So I know I seen something on our local chat with all the realtors, and a realtor was asking for photo ID to meet them at the house, and the buyer didn't want to give their ID, didn't want to tell their back history. So that realtor refused to work with them, and then that buyer started calling them bad names and stuff. And it's unfortunate because that person's just going to phone a different agent to show that house. But if we all did that, I mean, COVID's helped a lot because we have to screen people a little bit more. We have to ask the qualifying questions about them being sick or not, who's entering the house. So, COVID's helped a little bit with that, but I agree with you. It's someone has to feel confident enough to ask for the business or ask for the commitment in writing. So
That's a really cool point. I like that idea. So you're saying if it was standardized where the industry, everyone knows that if you need to sign with a real estate agent, then there's a process there. It is true. It's the point of entry just probably needs to go up as well. We probably lose about 15 to 20% of agents within 5 seconds. I was interviewing another guy and he said that was his idea, is like, if we could make this way harder to get into in some level, then you might just have, like, if you can bang out a 6-month course is our bar. And that's the thing, right? Yeah. And so if it was even a 1-year process with having some training on marketing and sales and different things like that, but it's pretty low bar.
Hey guys, Ben here, real quick. realestaterebootcamp.com. This is where we're helping real estate agents who are busy, who are maybe getting a little disconnected from their family and the life that they wanted to live before they got their license. They need systems and they need to get their business to serve them versus getting trapped in their business. They need systems, they need help. Jump on a call with me, realestaterebootcamp.com. Cheers. Back to the show.
Well, even mentorship. So the second part that I think should, it would be a good change for the entire industry is, I really feel that part-time agents that have a second job, they should have to disclose that to their clients. I'm going to work for you. I'm going to sell your house, but I might be at Home Depot on these hours or at another job. So I really feel.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, like I think that would not necessarily weed out the part-timers, but it makes people feel like it's more committed. You don't have lawyers going, oh, I have another job, and they're committed to their career, and they're 100% in. And I think I'm not trying to say that part-timers can't do the job. I'm just saying that it's difficult for someone that doesn't have the same amount of hours in a day to service their client. I've sent realtors offers and they'll get back to me in 8 hours because they started a shift. How is that working for the seller? I'm trying to get the offer.
I actually think that's going to be that. I think I think that could be argued in against that agent. Be like, they weren't looking out for my best interest, which is the number one job for the agent. That's not looking at. So that could be real. That could be a fine. If you actually went to court, I bet you the agent loses saying, oh, I was at a shift. Well, that's not the best. Like, that almost needs to be disclosed. I bet you it's already in the court of law. I bet you would have to do that, because if you can't service and show properties and do the job like and you don't tell them, that's almost withholding something that would directly affect the performance.
Yeah.
Well, I bet you that would be an interesting case if it ever went all the way.
Yeah, but I mean, that's one of the things that I think, even if they raised up the entry cost to be a realtor, Because I think realtors, they look at the price of one transaction and the cost of renewing your license. You're like, oh, I just have to do 1 or 2 deals a year and I can keep my license. But if they raise that cost up,
even doubled it, which what, you know, like even big deal wouldn't be much. But yeah, you're right. The bottom end guys, those part-timers to spend say $5,000 a year to keep your license versus $2,000. Yeah, it's a great point. So let's shift gears here. So I gave you some questions here earlier, just kind of like, hey, here's some of the stuff we could talk about. And you did a whole bunch of notes. I'm just curious, instead of me picking a few of those and going with it, was there something on that list that you're like, hey, this is like, you've something almost like, I hope he asks that, or you've got something to say. So I kind of want to see where you're at, because you like you actually did some preparation. So I want to, see where you're at with that.
well, I have a hard time. I can't even read my notes. It's just
Yeah, but you probably remember. So if not, that's fine too.
Well, I know the last thing on your list is like what has changed in the industry that you could bring back that would make it better for agents, is one of your questions you asked me.
School.
And
yeah.
the old school thinking. Now, I know with technology, like one of the reasons I'm able to do so many deals is, the introduction of DocuSign and electronic signatures. And, I've been working electronic signing or signing contracts. I've been paperless for probably 6 or 7 years, signing contracts and stuff. So technology has definitely made me able to sell more real estate. But what I've noticed I've lost since 2007 even, and before that, is the belly to belly connection with agents. And sometimes I don't even meet agents. Like they show my house, they email me an offer, they text me. Sometimes they text me, sometimes they just email and hope I find it. I know when I send an email, I always text to make sure they got it. It's just old school, but I just want to make sure. I just don't trust.
Follow up on your offers, old school. That's not a good sign. Oh my goodness. Hey.
No, I'll get a counter by email and they don't even check that I got it. But I just think the loss of connection of the local agents getting together at open houses and doing social events because of COVID, like we've kind of lost that, and now everything is more online. Clients are, even I had clients that would come in my office, they would tell me what their wish lists are for their house. I don't get that anymore. Now I get an email saying, here's the 5 MLS numbers I want to look at. So there's no connection with the clients and there's no connection with the realtors. So, I'm excited that I can do a deal, get heated with negotiations with the realtor. That deal's over. We've sold it, move on. The next transaction is a new one. I'm able to do that. Some agents are not. They need to, go have a beer after and chat it out. But I think that's the missing link right now, I feel, is the connection between agents.
Let's go there for a second. We both agree that there's the human to human element is maybe potentially there's a hole in training, even, and a hole in big time. There's a lot of technical and a lot of strategies and stuff, but I think it's like we always talk about that we can build the fastest race car, but the thing is, though, if you're not a good driver, and I feel like being a good driver is the human to human. Obviously, how to run a business is really important, but the thing is, though, like you can have the best marketing in the world, but if you don't know how to do the human to human thing, you'll get your conversion ratio will be shit. You'll just get lots of people coming in your world. It'll feel good, but you won't convert ever. That's why even on lead gen calls, if I did lead gen and you did lead gen, we'd convert like a maniac. You give me 10 calls, I probably got 3 or 4 sales out of crap leads. I'll figure it out because I know how to connect with a human, and I know how to do likability. I know how to do compassion and empathy and serving their needs, and all of this stuff I learned from my dad when he was a top sales guy, and you learn old school hand-to-hand combat. How do you connect? And I feel like you said something to me before in the pre-show or pre-chat about how how you would run things. Is that's where the Myers-Briggs and you did mention that actually, but it's just that, how do we solve that? How about that? How do we bring that back, Carson? How would you tell someone to get into that human to human connection? Like, it's an abstract part of the business, right? It's easy to tell people to make 10 phone calls, but how do you
honestly think it has to be introduced at the broker level. So, brokers now are just, I feel they're just lowering their fees. They're trying to get bodies in their brokerage, but they're not offering the same value that when I was running a brokerage, I was teaching the agents some things. I was teaching them the personality profiling and how to communicate on the human side of things. And I really think that's the one thing that's missing in brokerages. Now, that I think there's some brokerages that do it, don't get me wrong, but there's
Sure.
a number of brokerages that are, you're paying a transaction fee and the brokerage is there because they legally need to monitor your deals. That's it. But
Yeah.
they're not adding the value to your career. So, I believe, teaching and coaching is something you do, not something you did. So you have to continuously grow and learn. And so even if your brokerage doesn't do it, look into personality profiling, look into learning it yourself. To me, that's one of the biggest things that you'll ever take away from anything. Like you said yourself, it doesn't matter if you were doing this career or you did a different one, you would crush it. And I'm no different, but it's because we have that foundation of knowledge of human connection and communicating. So
Yeah, I see it as the highest value over anything that you could learn. That's because it is like you literally, if you're doing client base of anything, like it's called relationships. Like it's funny. Oh, I'm a relationship person. I like to say when people say that, I go, cool. How's your marriage? How's your relationship with your mom and dad and your sisters and your brothers and your friends? Like, how is it really? Oh, I'm a relationship person. I'm like, okay, cool. Your marriage is falling apart though. So we've got some disconnects between being a relationship person, but your relationships aren't going well. And it's funny, we don't really grade it that way. It's almost like a relationship person definition in business is a relationship person in your life, but it's the same. And I think relationship training in any level should be part of the process.
yeah,
So,
I mean, even reading the book, The Love Languages, right? Like that book is really good on communicating and learning the different styles for your marriage or any partnership, right? Not even a marriage, but it's just communicating on how that person communicates. It's on a different level altogether. So
would you be willing to share your journey with you about you and your wife and how that played out? I just feel like if I don't know how far you want to go with that, but just because I think about so many agents right now, that's not a conversation that's happening. You know what I mean?
well, and I
You don't
think
have
I've
to go
learned
deep about
after years of um, when you have the personality that I have, and you're always a people pleaser, and I'm always chasing the business, and I'm pleasing the people that earn me a business and a living so that I can provide for my family. So all of my energy was put into that side of my life. And so I was building a life that served the business, not building a life that served my family and my life at home. So after learning that, you treat people that you are closest to you the worst, I've heard that before, but it didn't really resonate with me because I didn't think that's where I was. But that's where I was. I was treating strangers better than I was my loved ones. And it's hard to hear even myself say it, but um, you would get away with more at home, talking rudely to people, being short with people because you're married, because you're the parent or you're the dad. But just because of that stature doesn't give you the right to talk to them like that. So that's something I had to learn the hard way, unfortunately. And now I see it completely different. Is I got to treat them better than the people that are paying me money for my living. Because one of my goals when I first got into real estate was I wanted to gross $1 million and still be married. That was the biggest thing that I added on to my goal, because everyone has a goal. I want to make $1 million. I want to make $1 million, but I wanted to make $1 million and still be married. Because the number one thing that I saw in the industry when I got in it is I saw top producers on their second and third marriages, or not even married at all. And I didn't want to go down that path. So along my journey, I lost sight of that goal. I was just hustling and working on the $1 million, but I lost the goal of the family. And my wife was focused on with the kids and growing being a stay-at-home mom, and I was the hustler so that she could stay home with the kids. So I was making the income of two so she could stay home, because we didn't want to have them raised in a day home or anything like that. So that's what we chose to do. But in that decision, she was connected with the kids, I was connected with work. And there was a disconnection for the marriage. So that's where, and then the kids became teenagers and they didn't need mom as much. And now mom feels like there's this lack of connection. So then she wants to be connected again, and I'm hustling and busy, and it feels like more pressure. So it created a lot of tension that I wasn't a good husband, because it was good for a long time because she was satisfied with the kids being around and helping with the kids. But once that shifted at home, then I wasn't able to be there. So it was hard for me to hear that you're not, just like your wife said, I don't want to be together. I don't want the money. That's what you want. So it's hard to realize that you're working so hard to provide for your family, and that's not what they want.
Seriously.
It's tough. And then when you finally realize that they just want you, it's a lot easier to make the shift. I don't know how many times my daughter said, Dad, you're a different person when we're camping. You're a different person when you don't have your phone in your hand. You're a different person. And it takes me 1 or 2 days to decompress from being a busy real estate agent. So, I have to take 7-day vacations minimum just so I can enjoy 5. Because psychologically I have to unwind, because you're always worrying about the business. So I know and so where we're at now is we're still on, building a marriage that we both love and building a life we love, but we want to do it together. And that's why, we both went on your retreat together in the fall. And, we had a lot of personal growth individually. We took away from that, how to communicate with their kids. How are they feeling? Not just asking the question and leaving it at that. Ask a second or third question, an emotional question, not just facts. So,
hey, did you do your homework? What was taught at school?
Yeah, being more connected. So, and that our kids are like, what are you okay? Like, because they're not used to it, right? Like, why are you? Yeah. So, it's definitely it's been an adventure. It's been a shift, all around positive changes in our life. I can really say that we're building a life we love. It's still a journey, because it's not a switch you turn on and you're done.
It never is.
So,
like there's days where, you have battles, there's days that you're like, what the hell? And it feels like you go backwards, but you're not going backwards. You've made progress. It's just those days that kind of feel like almost feels like square one again. Those are the days that I really remember. I really know that's part of the process. It's not that we've gone backwards. It's actually solidifying our growth. When you have a really bad day, it's the getting back up, which is the flex, which is that ripping of the muscle again in the gym. Like, once you've ripped your muscle, you feel strong once it heals. But then guess what you do? You go back to the gym, destroy those muscles again. Then you come back to the gym. And it's what I find marriage and life is about. You do 2 or 3 steps forward. You have these like wow moments, and then you go back to the battle. And then you come pull yourself back out of that battle, and you're like, okay, and you're better. It doesn't go back to, it's not like 3 steps forward, 3 steps back. It's 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, 3 steps forward. But we always think that going back is a negative. And I'm like, no, that's going back to the gym. You solve this one a bunch of times in a row, you're going to be unbelievably strong. And I think we think that we have a breakthrough and it's over, and it's not.
Well, even in bodybuilding, that you have to recover. If you don't recover, you're not going to be strong enough for the next go around. And that's where I feel the burnout comes from, because you're hustling and you're grinding all the time. You're not recharging. You're not your best self. And, until I shifted it in my head, I'm like, the clients deserve the best me that they can get. And until I was able to say, my clients expect me to take holidays, so they get the best of me. Yeah. So,
it's so selfish not to, because how rude. Like, it's like you're showing up being short and being rude. Like, it's so easy to understand that you're your best self once you've had time to do what you want to do. I know any guys. Were you in the reboot session with Norm Fisher, other Royal LePage guy who owned a brokerage? Oh, okay. he started singing. It was the weirdest thing when we do our Set Our Compass session. Like that was big. I remember you going through that too. Like, what do you like? What do you love to do? I don't know. I don't do nothing. I just work. I'm like, yeah, you're not living. His was, he secretly wanted to be a singer. And it was like, he's a 59-year-old guy. And he started getting his singing. And it's like, what am I doing to these clients? But I'm like, it woke him up. And now he's the same thing. He lives 3 months of the year at a cabin now because he started building a life he loves. He's got a full team. He as well. Very similar numbers to you. And same kind of thing, but it reminds me of like, it seems so weird. Like, I know what I'm going to do. My coach told me to sing. Like, it seems so stupid, but it's understanding where your fuel comes from to give to your clients. How are you going to give on empty? It just seems to be, it's clear now, but it's once you kind of get it. But it reminds me of you.
I know one of the questions you asked me is, what's my definition of the richest real estate agent? And after being through what I've been through, the biggest thing for me is building a business that can run with or without me in it, so that I can feel comfortable to go away on a vacation and recharge, but the business is not sacrificed. And unfortunately, in this industry, you can only do that if you have help. So, you either have another agent you can rely on at your office, or you have admin that can help you. And that's one of the reasons I like having licensed people on my team, is because they can actually step in my shoes. I mean, they can't do everything that I do the way I do it, because no one can do what I do, because that's what makes me special. They broke the mold after I came. But anyways, when it comes to someone, you have to be okay with someone doing it at 80% of what you did, or 70%, because you actually got away and had a recharge. So you can come back even more 100% than you were before.
And that 70% is relation to your 100, which is 140.
Right.
Like
right.
If you actually look at it, they're 70. Let's say your 100% is 130. So her 70s is a normal 100.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you just have to, you have to get comfortable with saying, well, I wouldn't have done it like that, but that's still okay.
Right? And now that's where the personal growth, the control issues, the like all of these other characteristics that hold everyone back from real success is hidden in that human resistance, the emotional resistance, the people pleasing, the scarcity, all this different things that we bring to the table, because you have to get to an emotionally intelligent place to let them be at 70%. Like it's such a grind to being a perfectionist. How can a perfectionist have someone do 70%? Well, they'll never take a holiday.
Yeah.
Like, so the perfectionist issue needs to be solved, not a business issue. It's just so crazy. It all intertwines.
Well, and when you get burned out, your body will take a break for you. Like if you don't work on taking breaks for yourself, your body will physically make you take a break, and you guaranteed will be out longer than you like to be.
Which is the cost of coming back is like, if we quantify the cost of burnout, it's one of those things I'm trying to create people to think about. It's like, if you're down for 6 months say you're running at 40-50% energy for 6 months, what's the financial cost to burnout versus a couple holidays of lost business? Like it's very logically easy to be like, okay, 2 weeks, you lost 3 or 4 deals. Okay, so 20 grand. You lost 20 grand because of your holidays. No problem. Now burnout 6 months running at 50% energy. How many deals? A deal a month for sure, at least. Yeah. So now you're looking at 60,000 on the recovery of burnout. It's just like health, right? Like eating it's like, oh, no big deal. But later you're in the hospital for, it's like your health later. So it's hard. But anyways, I think this is an amazing place to kind of start wrapping it up. Carson, I think I think it's really cool. I feel really, really lucky to be able to put you on the podcast, your first one. So I thank you for that. And the fact that you can be open and share. I think you've got a lot of influence even in your local area, Carson. I think this is really going to put you into a slightly vulnerable place, because everyone knows Carson is Carson, especially real estate agents in your area. So I think you're being a real leader with courage and just saying, hey guys, we're normal people. We wrestle with things, and you can have an amazing business. And I just so excited that you actually have some really good reach and respect, that you're actually sharing a real conversation like this. I really appreciate it.
Well, and I think a big thing that agents can take away from this is if someone is phoning you for the business, you already got the business. If you don't get the business, it's because of you as a person. So don't be scared to ask for the business because you already got it. They're calling you for a reason. So, this is where you talked about having courage. The agent should just see their own value in their own self because that person called them. So, they just have to be confident enough to ask for the business. But, fear is real. Everyone has fear. Like, I have a lot of courage. I do things whether I'm fearful or not. So to me, that's a definition of courage, is feeling the fear, but doing it anyways. So, this is my first podcast. I wasn't afraid to do it. And, I want to make sure that you're happy with what we talked about. But, the big thing is just do it. It doesn't matter.
Right here. Yeah. Well, let's leave it there. What a great way to close out the show. So thank you, Carson. I'm really excited to be sharing this with everyone. So you guys are listening right now. It's Carson's first one. This is still going to be a podcast for years to come, but by now you might be doing a few more. But send Carson a note, say great show, or reach out to him. I think it's always really cool to see if you feel like you've been touched, or if you're like, oh, that's a really cool point. Let us know. It's just such a cool thing. Podcast is a very difficult when it comes to community interaction. You just don't know who's listening. They don't have the level of metrics on other platforms, as you don't know how many hours people listen to. Like on video, we can see how many people watch the video, how long they stayed in the video. In podcasting, the biggest metric is a comment, is a message, is a review. It's literally what we have in that. So if you wouldn't mind do that, that'd be great. And we'll wrap it up there. Thanks, everybody. Cheers.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to the whole episode. I just want to remind you, realestaterebootcamp.com. This is a place where we're really transforming hustlers into business owners, a place where we're actually designing your life and finding the business model and the style of business that actually is going to serve the life that you want, helping you get really clear on what makes you happy versus just chasing the next deal. That is tiring. It's going to cost relationships. Check it out, realestaterebootcamp.com. Let's chat.